Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Mother's Day again to all the moms out there. Just so you guys know, there's in the outside back there, if you want to get any pictures with your family or anything else, you can do that right outside there as well. And we also wanted to say, just like Michelle said, that we do know that this is a great day for some people, but for some of us, it's not. And we have been praying for you all day long for this day, because we know some of us are grieving, some of us like to be moms and we're not. So just know that we understand, and we're so thankful that you still came today, even knowing what today was. So we're so excited that you're here. I do also want to say a big shout out. Last week, I was supposed to preach. I was not here. I appreciate all the texts that I got. I will spare you the details, but I had food poisoning, and I got out of bed. I went to bed Saturday night, and I got out of bed Monday. That's how bad it was. It was really bad, so there was no chance I was preaching. And I do want to do a big shout-out, because like Michelle said, she got the notes at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm the only one. I watched the sermon. You guys don't know the notes she got, okay? I'm the only one who knows the notes she got because I gave it to her. And not only did she take my notes and do my sermon, she enhanced it, added a lot more things, and made it a better sermon than you were going to get last week anyways. So I do want to say, and I want to give a round of applause for Michelle for doing all that last minute. She's the best preacher at this church, so she did a great job last week. Out of high school, I went to CCBC Catonsville. That's where I went. I didn't know what I wanted to do for college, so that's where I went to start. And I learned a lesson there that wasn't a great lesson, but I learned it. I learned through CCBC how to do the bare minimum work I had to do and still get a good enough grade. That's what I learned at CCBC. I learned I would go in really quick. I was good at it. I would go into class, and after a week, I was like, all right, this is a class I don't have to attend. I'm going to attend half of these, and I'll be fine. Or I would go and be like, oh, I need to attend this one, or I'm going to be in trouble. And I did it. I got all the way through CCBC, and I did the bare minimum work, and I got the best grades possible. Obviously, I didn't get any A's, okay? It was only C's. This is the only thing I got. That's all. C's get degrees. So that's all I was trying to do. From there, I didn't fail a single class, got my C's without going to most of the classes. From there, I transferred to University of Baltimore to become a business management major, and I brought that same mindset with me. I was like, you know what? Again, bare minimum to get the best grade I possibly can. And one of my first classes, the very first semester, was a marketing class. And a big part of this marketing class was this big group project that you had to do. It's a big group project that you and a bunch of other people, and you had to do this marketing plan, you had to show it, all this other stuff. It was a really big project, present it, you know all the stuff. The problem was I had this mindset. I'm doing bare minimum. And when you get a group project, perfect. Now I can really do the bare minimum, and because they're going to pick up the slack for me. So that's what I would do. I didn't go to that many classes, so I didn't meet with my group very much. They would send me work to do, and I would do it, but again, bare minimum. It wasn't good, the work I was doing. All in all, I was the person in the group project you don't want. Every group project you ever did at school, there's always that guy. That was me, right? I was that guy. So we do the group project. We turn it in. We get an A. I'm good to go now because I got an A. In the group project, we're good to go. All good. Then I got my grade, and I got a failing grade. I was like, what do you mean I got a failing grade? So I went to the teacher and said, hey, I don't understand. I was part of the group project, and this is the main part, and I've gotten everything else, but I got a failing grade on this. And the teacher came up to me, and he was like, well, your group let me know that you did about half the work, so I gave you half the grade. And then I was like, oh, that's a good lesson. That was a good teacher, actually. He was 100% right. I deserved that. The only class I failed was that one. I went in with this mindset of, you know what? They're going to carry my weight. It's all good. They'll carry the weight for me. I'll be able to pass this class, no problem. And then when that teacher gave me a failing grade, I realized, I can't allow other people to carry. I got to put in the weight. I got to put in the work. I hated that feeling that I got a bad grade because I just assumed everyone else would do the work for me. Very few of us want to be the person that everyone else needs to carry our weight. Very few of us want to be that person. We all want to be people that can handle it ourselves. We want to be people, especially during hard times, you know what? I can handle it. I can take care of it myself. I know at least most of us don't like being seen as needy, as needing help, as a charity case. We don't like being seen as sad or in need. But all of us at times need to rest. That's what we've been talking about this entire series. Even when life is hard. I would say especially when life is hard. And the only way we can rest during hard seasons is by relying on other people. Even when we try to fight that temptation, We still need to rely on other people. And that's what we're going to learn today. Throughout this whole series, we've been talking about rest. And we've been saying that rest makes you your best. You are designed to be a person who has rest. That's how you were designed. That's how you are made to be. And you are better. You are a better person. You're a better student. You're a better young adult. You're a better husband or wife or parent or child. You're better when you have the proper rest. And today we're going to see a great example of finding rest even in the midst of a hard time, even in the midst of battles happening all around us, how we can still find rest even in the midst of our battles in Exodus chapter 17. If you have your Bibles, you go to Exodus chapter 17. We're going to do most of this chapter. A little background here in Exodus 17. The Israelites, God's chosen people, are now freed from slavery. Moses is leading them in the wilderness, and they have just started their journey in the wilderness. They have just started. They're now free. They've crossed through the Red Sea, and they are now going towards the promised land, but they have just started the journey in Exodus chapter 17. We're going to pick up right in verse 1. It says this: "The whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord commanded. They camped at Rephidim." By the way, if you're new, that's the kids, okay? It's not a tornado, okay? "They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. So they quarreled with Moses and said, 'Give us water to drink.' So people are in the desert, and they stop at this place, but there's no water. There's no source of water here, and so the Israelites start complaining to the leader. 'Moses, you sent us to a place that has no water. We're in the desert. We need water. We're going to die. Give us water to drink.'" Verse 2, continuing verse 2. "Moses replied, 'Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put the Lord to the test?'" See, at this point in the Israelite story, here's what they have seen so far. They have seen God do 10 plagues in Egypt to free them. They've seen God free them from slavery. They have seen God part the Red Sea, and they've walked through it. They've seen that at this point. And then right before this, a chapter before this, God made it rain manna. Literally, their daily bread would come from the sky so that they would eat. This is what the Israelites have seen so far. Now they get to this place after seeing all that and going, "There's no water. We're going to die now." And Moses goes, "Why are you You've seen what the Lord has done. Why are you testing them?" They've had these amazing experiences, yet they still are complaining about it. Imagine Moses' frustration as the leader. You're like, "Dude, guys, you've seen all this stuff, yet here you are complaining." But they don't stop. Verse 3. "But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, 'Why'd you bring us up out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst?'" I mean, this is a legit need they have. I understand that. It's a legit need that they have. They will die if they don't get water. That is true. And in their head, they're like, "You know what? All the times God showed up, that's great. Doesn't matter if he doesn't give us water today, because we are going to die without that water." The people are furious about this. I mean, look how furious they are. That's what Moses says in verse 4. "Then Moses cried out to the Lord, 'What am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me.'" They are so mad that they are brought to this place to die of thirst, that they are about to kill the leader. That's how mad they are at it. So what does God say to do? Verse 5. "The Lord answered Moses, 'Go out in front of the people. Take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink.' So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel." The people needed water. Makes sense. They're in the desert. You need water. You're going to die if you don't get water. So how does God provide the water? He could just make it rain. That would be easy, like that. But what does God do instead? He says, "No, Moses, take the staff, the same staff that you parted the Red Sea with, that same staff you dropped, it turned into a snake, you picked back up, take that staff and strike this rock, and water will pour out of it." Why does God do it this way? We're going to have to tell them to stop at this point. Rob, can you go tell? It's my sister who's up there. That's the problem. They're having way too much fun. Rob, can you tell them to chill out, all the kids up there? Okay, cool. I got to preach this. Jeez Louise. You guys haven't heard anything. I know it. I'm looking at your face. You're like, "Oh, we don't know what you're saying. There's something going on up there." So, okay. Where was I? Okay, they struck the rock. So he says, that's what you need to do, strike the rock. He takes the staff, the same staff that used to part of the Red Sea, and he strikes the rock to produce water. This isn't where water comes from. Water doesn't come from the rock, doesn't come from the stone. But God was showing off by producing water from the rock. And he's showing the Israelites not just that he provides. He's showing them something important. In fact, 1 Corinthians 10:4 says that the Israelites drank the same spiritual drink for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. This rock represents Christ. The striking of the rock reflects Christ being struck and crucified when he came to the earth 2,000 years ago. Moses, the lawgiver, was the one to strike the rock, as it was God's justice that demanded that sin be atoned for. So not only is God providing with the Israelites, he is showing them the story. He is showing them reconciliation. Even early on, he is showing this. Jesus himself said in John 7 that the Holy Spirit would be poured out after he was crucified. In the same way the water pours out of the rock, it is showing us the story of Jesus. So while they're there, camped out at Rephidim, they get the first sign of trouble. Verse 8 says this: the Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites at Rephidim. Who are the Amalekites? The Amalekites were a nomadic, warlike people that descended from Esau. If you know the Genesis at all, there's Jacob and Esau. They were twins that came out at the same time. They were very different. Very different people. Jacob was hairier, it says, and would go and kill animals. And Esau was more of a mama's boy and would cook. And Jacob steals from Esau. He steals the birthright, and eventually Jacob's name turns into Israel. That's where we get the Israelites from. Where do the Amalekites come from? Well, Amalek is Esau's grandson, making the Amalekites distant relatives to the Israelites. The Israelites are a representation of God's people, and the Amalekites are a representation of people who walk away from God. So here's the first sign of trouble. They have not seen any trouble. At this point, we have not seen nations come and attack the Israelites while they're. This is the first time we see it. This is the very first fight that we see. Imagine Moses, who just went through this whole deal with the water situation. They're about to stone him, and imagine the frustration he has. Now, all of a sudden, an army's coming. You can imagine he's probably a little tired. He's probably a little weary. And here's what happens in verse 9. Moses said to Joshua, "Choose some of our men and go out to fight the Amalekites." Before now, the message was, stand still in the salvation of the Lord. That's Exodus chapter 14, verse 13. Now the message is, choose some of the men, and we're going to go fight. So you can't always rest. There's work to be done. There's times where we have to work. There's times we have to fight. There's times where we have to move. We cannot abandon our God-given responsibility for the sake of rest. There is a time to fight and work and move, and there's also a time to rest. This right now for the Israelites is not a time to rest. This is a time to fight. So Moses says to Joshua, get some of the men. You're going to go fight the Amalekites. Well, what is Moses going to do during this? Verse 9, he says, tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hands. He will go up to the hill. While they're all fighting, he will take the staff. He will raise his hands up while the rest of the people fight. The same staff that he used to part the water. The same staff that he used to hit the rock and water came out. That same staff, he will stand at the top of the hill with his hands raised, with the staff in his hand. All throughout the Old Testament, we see the same thing when it comes to nations against the Israelites. When nations came against the Israelites, if God was on their side, the Israelite side, they would always defeat the nations. Even though they weren't stronger, they were the weaker nation. Even though they were weaker, they would always defeat them. But the second they abandoned God and God said, go ahead, try to fight by yourselves, they would get taken over. They would become captives. We see it over and over and over again. The Amalekites are a stronger army than the Israelites. On their own, the Amalekites are going to win. They need God on their side or they will not win. Moses is going to stand on the top of the hill in a sign of surrender, asking God to fight the battle for them. If he puts his hands down, they will lose. As long as he keeps his hands up, they will win. So while Joshua and his men had to fight the battle, the outcome didn't really rest on their strength or weakness. Victory rested in Moses lifting his hands. In other words, victory was received as Moses lifted his hands in a sign of surrender and prayer. It would seem like Joshua has the hard part. He's got to go fight the battle. He's got to actually go fight people. But what Exodus tells us is, no, Moses has the hard part. Because he's not fighting a physical battle. Moses is fighting the spiritual battle. He is surrendering. Ephesians 6:12 says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces of evil. There are spiritual battles that involve your heart and mind where the enemy, in a very real way that you cannot see, is attacking, trying to put doubt and fear into your life through the spiritual battle. Things like family issues that are hard for you to forgive, shame and condemnation over a failure, temptation of busyness over prioritizing faith, battles with worry and anxiety and worthlessness. Physical battles, there's something you do. When there's a physical battle, you do something. Spiritual battles is the opposite. Spiritual battles, you surrender. You say, God, it has to be you. See, victory of spiritual battles requires surrender. And that's why it's so hard. Because physical battle, at least I do something. Like I figure I got to do. But spiritual battles, that involves me not doing something. That involves me saying, God, and surrender to you. Just like Moses has to lift his hands with his staff, I surrender to you. I'm giving it all to you. Spiritual battles, you can't fully see what is even happening. The only thing you can do is say, God, I trust you. I trust that you win this battle, so I'm surrendering it to you. Right before we planted Impact Church, which is the most stressful season of my life, especially at the time, here's a couple things that happened literally the month before this church was going to be planted in 2018. Our car went up. Our washing machine went up, and the way that went up is it broke and all the water came. It flooded our entire basement, so everything got ruined. And then our septic tank went up, all in the same month we were about to launch. What's that? Our fridge went up too. There was so many things, I forgot all the things that happened. Our fridge went up at the same time. The physical parts of these problems, you can solve those. We called insurance, we got a new fridge, we did all that stuff, right? But we knew something was happening. It was a weird coincidence that the month this church was going to start, all these things went up in our house. It was a spiritual battle. This is what Moses' job is, to stand at the top of the hill, arms raised in surrender, fighting the spiritual battle while Joshua fights the physical battle. So next morning comes, Joshua gets in his position, and Moses gets in his. Verse 10. So Joshua fought the Amalekites as Moses had ordered. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites were winning. But whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. So the battle begins. Moses at the top of the hill, and I'm just picturing myself in this situation, fighting this battle. If I'm Moses, and my hands are up, I'm pumped. It's like, let's go. You're not going to win. God's got us. But then all of a sudden, what happens with your hand up? You start to get a little tired. You can only keep your hands up for so long. And his hand starts to go down, and all of a sudden, then they start winning. Oh, put the hands back up. Cool, we got it. We can do it. And the battle continues. And Moses keeps his hands up, but the problem is his arms get tired. He can only keep his hands up for so long before he loses his strength. They have been wandering the desert. He just finished dealing with the Israelites about to stone him over the water situation. Now here he is trying to hold his hands up with whatever strength he has, and he's able to do it at first, but he's losing that strength, and he's getting tired. He was eventually going to get to the point, if the battle doesn't end at some point, he's not going to be able to keep his hands up forever. Like, you can only keep it up for so long. So what does he do? Because they're in a battle. If he puts his hands down, it's over. They will lose. Putting his hands down is not an option, but he can't keep them up for so long. He can only keep it up for a certain amount of time. What does he do? Verse 12. When Moses' hands grew tired, they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held his hands up, one on one side, one on the other, so that his hands remained steady till sunset. When Moses was too tired to keep his hands up because of the battle, Aaron and Hur came up and held his hands for him. That's what happened. Moses couldn't keep his hands up the whole time. It isn't because he wasn't spiritual enough. It isn't because he wasn't a good enough leader. It isn't because he wasn't good enough. He couldn't keep his hands up because he's human, and humans get tired. But the battle needed to be won. So the people around him said, if the battle needs to be won and you need your hands up, then we will help you keep your hands up. We will lift your hands for you. And then verse 13, so Joshua overcame the Amalekite army with the sword, and they won. But they would have never won that battle if Aaron and Hur weren't there to raise Moses' hands when he was too weak to keep them up. They would never have won. It was Aaron and Hur that allowed Moses to find rest in the midst of the battle while God still fought the battle. It was the community around him. So through this story, I think there's three things we can learn when it comes to us resting in the midst of a battle, of the midst of a storm, of the midst of all the things we have to do. Three things I think we can learn. One, when you are tired is when you are most vulnerable. When Moses got tired and his hands started to slip down, Exodus tells us that they lost the battle. They began to lose the battle. This is what happens when they were vulnerable. When you are going and going and going and going, you will get tired. And when you get tired, you are now more vulnerable. You are more vulnerable to mistakes. You are more vulnerable to sin. When you are tired, you're vulnerable to say things that you don't mean, to be short-tempered with your spouse, with your kids, with your coworkers, with your friends, to snap at other people in anger. And you might say things, and you might apologize later, but you already said it. And the damage might already be done, all because you were too tired and you were vulnerable. When you are tired, you are vulnerable to giving to temptation a lot easier. Late at night, tired, alone, temptations get high, right? Things like pornography and overeating or doom scrolling. It gets a lot easier when you're tired. You're more vulnerable. When you are tired, you are vulnerable to compromise your integrity to avoid stress, to cut ethical corners at work, to tell little white lies, to hide mistakes. When you are tired, you are vulnerable to become spiritually lazy and disconnected, too tired to pray, too tired to read scripture, too tired to attend church. I see this all the time where people just like, it's just a really busy season. I'm just going to take a break for a while. Then all of a sudden, 6 months go by, a year goes by, I don't see him again. See it all the time. A tired soul drifts towards spiritual numbness. You start to lose awareness of sin and awareness of God's presence. When you are tired, you are vulnerable to numb yourself instead of rest, to binge, overeat, or I know none of you do this, but I just got to turn my brain off, so I'm just going to scroll for a little bit just to turn my brain off, right? You know, it's the worst possible way to turn your brain off. You know that, right? It provides false rest while leading to addiction, isolation, and avoidance. I remember when Savannah, our middle child, was born, it was one of the busier seasons of our life. We had just had 2 kids, Brooklyn. We had Brooklyn already, and then 9 months into having Brooklyn, my wife was pregnant with Savannah. So that's really quick turnaround, right? So we had 2 kids under the age of 2. It was a lot. I was working a full-time job while working at a church as well. We were so tired. And we both remember one night, we don't remember what it was about, but one night the kids were in bed. I remember being in our kitchen, our dining room area, and my wife and I were screaming at each other about laundry. I asked her this week, do you remember what we were fighting? No clue. Something about laundry, we were fighting like we were getting divorced. That's how bad we were fighting. We eventually separated. I went downstairs, she went upstairs. We were so mad at each other, and both of us at the same time kind of clicked. This has nothing to do with laundry. We're exhausted, and we're taking it out on each other. So we came back, we sat at the table, and we just realized, you know what? The reason why we just did that is because we're so tired. We need to find ways to rest. When you are tired, that is when you are most vulnerable. The battle is still happening around you, whether you are awake and ready to fight or whether you are tired. And when you are tired, you're vulnerable to lose the battle that is happening around you. That's number 1. Number 2 is this. Everyone gets tired. Whatever battle you're facing in life or whatever battle you faced in life before, you can start with great intentions, but you will always get tired. It doesn't matter what it is. I have an illustration I want to show you. If I could have my brother-in-law Dan come on up. I'm going to give it up for Dan. Dan helps lead the student ministry upstairs with my sister. Trust me, your kids are having a lot of fun. Not anymore because we yelled at them. So this is Dan. Dan's a wrestler, so he can lift. How much, if you're bicep curling, how much you normally lift-ish? Oh, you don't work out. Okay, cool. Like 30-ish, maybe. Okay, something like that. This is 12 pounds. So it's not very heavy, right? So give me one bicep curl really quick. That's fine, right? It's pretty lightweight. You could probably do 10 of those. Do 10 really quick, as fast as you can. 1, 2, 3, all the way down. 4, all the way down. 5, cheating. These wrestlers. 6, 7, 8. Come on, let's go. 9, 10. You're good. All right, it's good. Do another 20 really quick. Go, quick, as fast as you can. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everyone count. 5, 6, 7, 8. All the way down. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You're slowing down. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You're good. It's light, right? Do another 20. Go. 1, 2. Yeah. It's coming out of the ties. We'll give you $10 per rep. You're getting tired? The problem with asking a wrestler to do this is I figure in his head he was like, I'll die before I stop doing this. They're getting tired, right? Okay. How many more realistically do you think you could do? Okay, I believe you, but go sit down. Don't want to keep you out here forever. What was the point? This is a weight that's easy for Dan to lift. It's only 12 pounds. It's an easy weight, right? There's nothing wrong with that weight. But if he doesn't stop, eventually, he's not going to be able to lift it anymore, right? You could see him starting to get a little slower. I just wanted to speed this up because he would have gone forever. But eventually, he wouldn't be able to lift that, right? The weight is light. But if he didn't stop, eventually, he would not be able to carry it. When you're in a battle, the weight might be light initially. If you don't rest, you're not going to be able to carry it forever. But how can you rest in the middle of a battle? How can you rest in the middle of a storm? How can you rest when there's so much thing that has happened and so many people need you? How can you do that? So we think, you know what? I can't rest. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep that staff in the air. I'm going to keep going forever. I'll just keep moving. I'll keep fighting. And it's a good mindset to have. But you can only go for so long until you just can't. And the temptation when you eventually stop is to think, I'm just not spiritual enough. Man, I'm just not good enough. Man, I'm just not doing enough. That's not true. Here's what you need to understand. You are tired because you are designed to get tired. That's why you're tired. It's not that you aren't doing enough. It's not that you're weak. It's not that you aren't spiritual enough. It's not that you're failing. God designed you to get tired. You are tired because you were designed to get tired. You may think, okay, but Eric, the battle's still happening. The storm is still around me. There's still things happening. There's still things that need to be done. And I would say, exactly. That's why, number 3, you need others. As a pastor, I have sat with people who have gone through some of the worst pain you could ever imagine. I have sat with people who have lost a parent, who've lost a spouse, who've lost a child. I've sat with people who desperately want a child and they haven't been able to have one or had a miscarriage. I've sat with those people. I've sat with people who've gone through terrible divorce because of infidelity and lies and abuse. And I've seen these situations happen. And those people, at times I know they think it, that there's no winning the battle. The storm that I'm in now, it's never going to end. I will never be the same. It will be here forever. And I have seen those people make it out. I've seen people get through unimaginable pain that I don't know if I could get through. I've seen people get through pain that you would think is impossible to get through. I've seen them get through it. And I've asked them, how did you get through that storm? How did you get through that pain? How did you get through that hardship of life? Every single one of them say the same thing. Community. It's the people around me. It was the family that showed up, that took care of the household chores when I couldn't do it anymore, that stayed around long after the funeral, long after everything else, the family that kept checking in on me. That's how I got through it. It's the friends that constantly checked in on me, knew me well enough to know when I wasn't doing okay, and knew me well enough to say, I'm going to go show up, I'm going to do what they need, to love on me. I've seen it. The church that has gone around a group of people to support them emotionally, spiritually, financially support people, to pray for them, to lift them up when they needed to be lifted up. When you are too tired to fight the battle, but the battle is still going, a battle that you need to win, that needs to be won, you have to lean on other people. You have to have an Aaron and a Hur to lift your hands while you rest, while the battle continues to be fought by God, while you recover. So my question for you is, do you have it? Do you have those people? Do you have that Aaron and Hur that when you need rest during the battle, they will come next to you and lift your hand so the battle can still be fought? Do you have those people? See, getting that kind of community is not easy. It doesn't happen naturally. You have to find it. You have to seek it out. You have to create it. You have to find it. It takes effort. But it's so crucially important because all of us will go through a battle where you need to find rest within the battle. I always hear podcasts and read articles about how the church, like the Sunday morning church, how it's in trouble and all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And the reason why I say it is because I read those articles when I was a kid. Those articles were made well before I was born. They'll be here well after I'm gone. The church is not going anywhere, okay? I've read those articles. I've seen it. And here's 2 reasons why I know the church's dying narrative that is always around, why it's not true. There's two reasons. One, it's God's church. Jesus said, on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not be able to stop it. If the crucifixion couldn't stop the church, if Rome couldn't stop the church, if the gates of hell can't stop the church, nothing's going to stop the church. Remind yourself of that. Don't fall into the trap of like, oh no, woe is us. No, don't fall into that trap. It's God's church. He will help it grow. Number two reason why I know the church will be here, well past me, is the church is the best place to find real, authentic community. Here, you gather with different people of all different ages, of all different beliefs, of all different upbringings, of all different traditions, of all different gifts, of all different ideas, under the unifying mission of the gospel. Under the unifying mission of the fact that the God of the universe sent his son to die for us. And we're supposed to spread that message like one beggar telling another beggar where to find bread. Under that mission, we are unified. Under that unifying mission of Jesus. Here you bring your strengths that only you have into a community where you make each other better and you make the community around you better. You can join a kickball league. You can join a social club. It is a lesser version of the community found in the local church. I truly 100% believe that. I have seen at this church, not church, this church, I have seen people get together to love on others who have lost kids, to get together to take care of those who are going through a terrible divorce, to get together, pick up people for doctor's appointments and job interviews. I've seen in this church people that have come to support other people that are in desperate need financially, to sit here and laugh with and cry with and pray with those that are going through a hard season, all under the unified mission of the radical love that Jesus shows each one of us. A kickball league cannot give you that community. You need others. You need community. And if you don't have that, you're in the perfect place to find it. Now, I want to let you know something that you need to understand. Coming here on a Sunday morning is a great first step. You're not going to find it just by coming here on a Sunday morning. You have to go deeper. You have to go deeper. You have to find ways outside of Sunday morning to find that community. Join a group. Join a team where you get here early and serve and you get to meet other people. Invite someone over to your house for dinner. Go grab lunch with somebody else. Come to the men's nights or the women's nights. Come to the men's retreat or the women's retreat in October. These are ways you actually start to grow, get to know people. This is a good first step. You come in, you hear a sermon, and you guys leave quickly. You guys actually leave really quickly. You guys bounce out of here, and then it's over. You can come in here and be anonymous, not meet anybody, and get out of here. If you want to find deep community, this is a place to start. This is not where you're going to find it. You need to go beyond this. All of us need that community because a battle is going to be fought, and you're going to need rest during the battle. So you need people around you who can lift your hands while God fights the battle for you. Some of you, you're Moses. You're going through a battle right now, and you're tired, and you think, I just can't do this alone. And I would say, you're right. You can't. But you don't need to. In fact, you're not meant to. Don't beat yourself up for being tired. Instead, lean on the people around you so that you can rest while God fights the battle on your behalf. Some of you, you're here, and you are Aaron and Hur. You're not tired. Battle's being fought, but you're not fighting it. You're good. That's great. Find someone that you can help lift their hands. Who are the people around you who need you, and Aaron and Hur, to lift their hands? So here's what I'm going to do today, and the worship team coming up as we get ready to play this closing song. We've done this one other time, and I want to do it again today. As we play this closing song, if you're here and you would say, you know what, I'm more like Aaron and Hur right now. I'm not that tired. Life's okay. There's no battle right now. There's no storm happening, at least that I can see. I'm okay. So as this song plays, if that's you, I'm going to invite you to stand during that song. But if you're here and you're like, that's not me. I'm Moses. I'm in the midst of a battle and I'm tired. I'm going to ask you to remain seated. Here's what I'm going to ask. You might not know everyone around you, and I get it. You don't know everyone that's right near you. If you see someone near you that's sitting, whether you know them or not, what I want you to do is simply put a hand on their shoulder or put a hand in their direction and pray for them. You don't need to know their name. You don't need to know the battle. You don't even know what they're going through. It's a way to tell them you're not alone. You're not alone during this. You're not alone with whatever that battle is that you're fighting. You are in the middle of a community that will lift your hands if you need help. So as we play this closing song, after I pray, I'm going to encourage those of you that are Aaron and Hur to stand. And those of you that need prayer, just remain seated. And people around you will pray over you to remind you you are not alone in this battle. You need that community. We all get tired, all of us, because you're designed to. So lean on the community around you during that season. Let's pray. Dear God, I thank you for being the God who fights our battles for us. God who fights the spiritual battles for us, the God that gave us the hope that we all need, that knows what we need, gives us the next steps we need to take in our faith, that showed the God that loves us so much you sent your son for us. God, right now I pray for the people in this room who are Aaron and Hur. There's nothing major happening right now, and they are ready to help other people. God, I pray that you just convict them and encourage them to see the people around them that need their support, that need to be lifted up. And dear God, I pray for the people in this room who are tired. People who are trying to keep their hands up like Moses, but having trouble keeping them up during the battle. God, I pray that for those people, that they feel the love that you have for them through the people around them, through the community that they have. Dear God, I just pray you remind them that victory has already been won. That victory is through surrender. That they can still find rest in the midst of the storm, in the midst of the battle. Help them to realize that through the people that are around them. In your son's name, amen.